Hey, I'm Ambition David.
Hi, Ben Goldberg.
Austin Hartman.
Charan, Kanthala.
And today we'll be discussing the role of political parties in the U.S. political system. Governments are driven by citizen participation. When a country is small, it's easy for people to participate in the government because there's not too much stuff to keep track of. They can easily stay up to date with all the issues and all the candidates they want that they are thinking of voting for. However, in large countries like the U.S., political participation is increasingly more difficult because of the size of the nation. There's so many issues to keep track of. And as a result, we needed something to help us keep track of our information. And that came through linkage systems. And the most important linkage system of all, arguably, is political parties because they provide people with candidates. They simplify options for people and they make it easier to participate in the government. Despite political parties' key role as a linkage system, many people have come to see political parties as only a source of tension and conflict in the federal government. With this in mind, there's two conflicting views. Some people think that linkage institutions and political parties are really important and something that the nation's better off without them. So with that, all this in mind, we wanted to figure out which is true.
When the Constitution was being ratified, James Madison in Federalist Paper 10 stressed that we should not make factions. In his farewell address, George Washington stressed that we shouldn't have political parties. Yet, within a few elections of Washington, there were already parties. The original parties were disorganized, but there was a working multi-party system that was really just composed of a bunch of different candidates running for office. As time went on, the constituents' idea of politics cemented. They banded together under two main parties. Those parties are the Democrats and Republicans, as you may know today, the horses and the elephants. The Democrats are mostly part of the left wing, and they have generally more liberal ideas. However, the Republicans on the other side are more part of the right wing and have conservative ideas. The parties created a centralized umbrella of ideas for people to be represented by. To this day, the Democrats and Republicans still hold a majority of the seats in almost all the offices across the nation. This has limited the diversity and the ideas in the positions. Although the country bands together as a representative democracy, the limited amount of varying ideas results in highly specialized viewpoints that do not, in fact, represent the people. Because there are only two parties, they are constantly butting heads with one another to receive support and cannot truly establish a representative viewpoint without either lacking a true position on important issues or alienating voters with specific views. As a result, the parties are largely similar due to the nature of the competitive two-party system.
Now that we've heard a little bit about political parties, what exactly are their benefits? First, political parties encourage public participation. Political parties encourage the average person to be politically active. They ask for people to become informed about specific situations that are happening within society so they can take a stand on those issues. Debates allow for people to express opinions or share ideas to formulate an informed opinion. Second, political parties create checks and balances. In the United States, with two major political parties, the system is designed to bring politicians together so that negotiations occur over legislation. The goal of forming political parties is to create a system of checks and balances to prevent one person or one group from grabbing too much power in representative governments such as the United States. 3. Political parties distribute information throughout society. In many elections, political parties are a primary source of information for current and future legislations. It's the one chance for the general population to work with politicians to begin crafting a vision for the future. Although voters must continue to press their politicians to stay true to their word in a representative form of government, they have access through the political party to do so. 4th, political parties help decisions to be made quicker. When people come together within the boundaries of the party, they can debate ideas and create legislation or policies that benefit everyone faster than if they were forced to do it themselves. The party must be managed properly for this advantage to appear, however, and that is often why this key point is not always seen. Finally, 5th, political parties create connections. People are naturally attracted to others who share similar beliefs and ideas. This attraction allows people to network with one another, creating connections they might not have otherwise made. Involvement in a preferred party can mean making new friends, traveling to new places, and being able to work toward making the world a better place. As discussed throughout the presentation so far, political parties are overall relatively beneficial. However, their weaknesses come from how they operate within the current structure of the American government. The current winner-take-all system and watchdog mentality has created a hostile environment between the two main political parties of the United States, the Republicans and the Democrats, and to solve this, we recommend getting rid of the winner-take-all system to encourage a multi-party system within the United States. Our two-step plan looks to encourage the principles of democracy. The first step of our two-step plan is implementing proportional representation. This would involve assigning seats based on the proportion of votes received and not using the current winner-take-all system. This system is currently utilized in many foreign countries and looks to increase representation of minority groups and other third parties. We propose instituting this proportional representation for seats of the Senate and the House, and then the splitting of electoral votes proportionally for presidential elections. Now on to the second step of our plan.
So, the first part of our two-pronged plan allowed us to establish proportional representation, and as Ben mentioned, this will help create a multi-party system. But what do we do with this multi-party system? How do we use it to solve the other problems political parties have? The next step in our plan involves eliminating the destructive nature and competitive and decisive two-party system. With only two political parties, there's always one winner and one loser. As such, the party at a disadvantage typically takes over the role of a watchdog, monitoring their opponents and pointing out their faults. While some might say that this competitive system encourages each party to be at its best, in reality it encourages a violent and cutthroat system in which the two parties constantly attempt to tear one another down. However, this is not even the greatest problem, as a two-party system is terrible for providing diversity and representing the public views. With only two parties, any votes lost by one party are guaranteed to go to their sole opponent. As such, parties are very cautious in backing extremist views, instead appealing to the middle ground to avoid alienating any voters. In a multi-party system, however, both the previously mentioned issues would be easily solved. With more parties, each opponent is less significant, and there would be much less rivalry between groups, simply because one party wasting resources to fight with another party would leave both at a disadvantage as other parties focused on self-buildup. As George Chung of the Stanford Social Innovation Review stated, with party elections with multiple parties are structurally more stable and have closer results. As such, parties must focus on all their resources on campaigning and improving their own platforms rather than fighting opponent parties. For those of you that learn best through examples, think of Katniss in the early stages of the Hunger Games, who focused on finding a bow and arrow, food, and shelter rather than killing other contestants, and then proceeded on to win. Finally, a multi-party system would allow parties to specialize and diversify their platforms. Because there are more parties, all lost votes will likely be split between the other multiple opponents. As such, each lost vote is slightly less important than in a two-party system, and parties will be more willing to appeal to their true beliefs and create a system in that fashion rather than appealing to middle ground voters. Oh, hey, didn't see you there. So, we are now going to blow your mind with an amazing analogy between political parties and the NBA. Political parties group candidates and organize voters. Likewise, teams in the NBA are organized by conferences, the East and the West. Thus, the teams within these conferences can be related to parties. Now, what makes up a candidate? His ideas and stances. What makes up a team? Players. Therefore, the players are the ideas within these teams that are the candidates. However, only the best 5 players start for their team, the starting 5. Likewise, any candidate can only emphasize so many issues, so their starting 5 are the platform for the candidate. Now, how are these ideas implemented? The party convention creates the platform. Likewise, in the NBA, a team uses the NBA draft to introduce new ideas and reset their starting 5 every year. Next, how are candidates selected to represent their party? They're chosen by delegates, who typically vote based on the popular vote. However, they can also vote based on their own preferences. Back to the NBA, how are NBA teams chosen to move on through the playoffs and into the finals? The referees make the calls. Supposedly, they pick based on the rules, but they are also capable of picking the teams they want to win, just like delegates. Now, a candidate must campaign for up to an entire year before they even truly start running for office, a long, arduous process with many late nights and long days. Likewise, in the NBA, teams must play countless meaningless games before the real elections begin, also known as the regular season. Full of dreaded back-to-backs and practices, this is a daunting task for any team. But the real goal for any political party is winning seats in the government. One party's candidate faces off against the other party's candidate in the final showdown, and that would be the NBA Finals, the presidential election of the NBA. Finally, anyone in this class who liked the Warriors last year, or who likes the Rockets this year, you're a bandwagon fan. You have no sturdy conference identity. You are thus encouraging de-alignment as you refuse to identify with a certain party. I hope you have all enjoyed having your mind blown by how deeply democracy runs through our country, even in our basketball games.